Good day and welcome back to the Family Cyber Clinic. This week we're covering something a member of the community flagged to me about QR codes. And so we've shared a video on QR codes before, and if you want to see the content, just click on the info card and consume that content. But we are slightly going to be looking at it in a different way. And that's just because of what he shared with me. And it's important that we need to take note of this, especially those of us who travel. You know, many of us travel, the summer holidays are obviously over and we all traveled and returned at some point. But there is something that we may not be aware of, and it's useful to be aware of it even though we're not traveling, so that at least anytime we do get to travel, we will, do these best practices. In fact, just a best practice. We have boarding passes in a view to make things very easy for us as human beings in the digital age. QR codes, like I mentioned in that video, have a place. They make a lot of things easier, especially during the pandemic that we are thankfully coming out of. It was where you didn't have to touch things. You didn't want to touch things or have people touch you or do stuff. And QR codes allowed you in a non-touchy way to access restaurant menus and websites. So QR codes have a place in the digital age, and it aids us to access information conveniently and quickly. And like I keep saying, the rogues are not sleeping. The rogues are busy looking for ways to get at us, get at our money, get at our personal information. And this information I'm revealing to you may be something you are not aware of. And I hope that the airplane companies or plane companies, whatever you want to call them, either make a change or consider making a change to this information I'm sharing. And QR codes, as you will now know, are a thing when it concerns boarding passes. Your boarding pass has a QR code. And that's why when you present it, whether it's a PDF or something you've printed on paper, when you present it at the airport, they're able to read the information and confirm your identity. Now, what happens after you've boarded the plane? Of course, that information is still on paper or it's still on a PDF. What happens to it? Your information is still on that piece of paper or in that PDF, which means your secret or sensitive information is still on a QR code or a piece of paper. And what do we do often? What do we do with our boarding passes? We put it in the bin. We put it in the bin. Digitally, maybe not quite such a big problem, but the papers, we put them in the bin. And you have bin surfers. You have rogues that go to bins. And that's why shredding is a thing. We've shared videos on shredding also, the importance and the place of shredding your information. Because your information, whether it is in transit, in a bin, or is digitally placed, is vulnerable without mitigations, without things in place to protect it. And so why all of a sudden will we think that a boarding pass, which is holding your passport number, your flight number, your name, possibly your date of birth. Anything to help identify you is on that boarding pass. And that's why they look at your boarding pass and look at your passport to see if the things match. But that's the same information you quickly put in a bin after your flight. You don't even put it in your own bin. You put it in a public bin. Now, thankfully, we don't fly as often as we used to in those days, so we have time to adjust. This is not to threaten you. This is not to frighten you. This is to inform you that anytime you board a plane, whether it's a PDF boarding pass or a paper boarding pass, once you have boarded the plane, carefully put that boarding pass in somewhere hidden. It will be your briefcase or your box right at the bottom. And when you arrive at your destination, your final destination, hopefully it's your home or a family friend's home or a hotel, wherever it is, shred the boarding pass. But I don't have a shredder. You can shred with your hands. And those things are quite light. Shred it. Shred it. Because your information is still on there. When I said that I hope that the aeroplane companies, or don't know why I'm calling them aeroplane companies, you get the idea. I don't know why they have not come up with some sort of process that once the boarding pass has been scanned, it should be decrypted. It should be, what's the word? I can't think of words. It should just mash it up digitally or mess it up so that it can't be read. Let it be just a one read process. So once it's read, nobody else can go in, or it does something. I don't know whether such technology exists, but I just think it should be done to help the vulnerable people or the people who are not going to be exposed to this video that I'm sharing. But ultimately, you get the drift. Shred your boarding pass once you have used it. Don't shred it in a public bin, or rather, don't put it in a public bin. If you can shred it in a public bin, that's good enough. But plan to shred it once you reach your final destination. Okay, I hope the person who shared this with me is happy that I've shared it with the community. I'm happy too. I've been your host, Lawrence Idem. Until next week, I believe that's when we're having our live Q&A. Please make it a date. God bless and goodbye.